Welcome back, everyone, for yet another episode of Super Voice 2022, the first reality show in testing space by Synapse QA. And this round, we are sponsored by Uilicious. I'm your host, Safinah, and you are watching the sixth episode of Super Voice. This is the playoff round where our contestants will be sharing their knowledge on the theme around process, approaches, and leadership in testing. Interesting, isn't it? Well, to bring you up to speed, this is the penultimate round of Super Voice, and that means we are just two more episodes away from the much awaited grand finale. Thank you so much for being with us, supporting us on this lovely journey. We had a lot of interesting episodes and topics from our fabulous contestant in the previous round. So if you missed watching any of the episode, please head on to our YouTube channel and start streaming those. And it's time to pick your favorite. Well, without further delay, I would like to welcome our awesome judges for Super Voice. And today, we have Anna and Naveen. Anna is a renowned international speaker and a recognized expert in software test leadership. Meanwhile, Naveen, he is a seasoned performance engineer with over 15 years of experience in architecting, designing and development, and CI/CD solution, to name a few. So the first one, Anna, how are you?
Good, thank
Are
you
you
very much.
excited?
Oh,
Right.
very much
How about you,
excited.
Naveen?
I love this topic. This is my favorite.
Wow. Okay. How about you, Naveen? Are you as excited?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to your feedback for both of you. And without further delay, I would like to also welcome our next participant, Geosley.
Hi, Safinah.
Hello, hi, Geosley. How are you? How do you feel today?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited
Are
for
you
the next round.
excited?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, yeah. Just a heads up for the our audience. Geosley is actually um, uh, basically he is actually a product evangelist and a community builder at XLQ. And during his presentation, I'm sure that he will explain more about his background. So, are you ready to grab the mic?
Yes, sure.
All right, take it away.
Let me quickly share my screen.
Sure.
Can you confirm if
Okay.
you can see it?
Yes, very clear.
Awesome. So let's get started. Respected judges and fellow listeners, I welcome you all and thank you, Synapse QA, for giving me an opportunity yet another time to present. So let's get quickly started into my topic. So, none of us likes bad bosses, right? So we might have in our experience as testers, in our organizations, come across some of these bad bosses, right? So we have someone like a puppet boss. The puppet boss is specifically more like, the management is always right, never stands up for his teams. Then we have something called the King Kong boss, right? The superiority complex on top of his mind, works more on powers rather than building relationships. Then we have the Superman boss, who thinks that the organization revolves around him or her. Solo decision making power, ignoring feedback, and taking credit for the team's win. And last but not the least, micromanager bosses, the ones who are continuously drilling their employees, making them suffocate, demoralizing them, and killing their creativity. If you have never experienced any of these bosses, you are definitely one lucky human being. As they say, people don't leave bad bosses, bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. And hence my topic today, which is mastering the art of situational leadership. For some of us who are already leaders and many more who will be stepping into the leadership zone, this is particularly a topic very close to me. About me, I'm Geosley Andrades, tester by heart and driven by community, product evangelist at XLQ. So let's get started into what is situational leadership. So situational leadership is basically a particular style of leadership and refers to a recognized and useful leadership model. Now, when we talk about situation leadership in simple layman terms, it is about adopting different leadership styles depending upon a situation. So, why situational leadership in the first place? There needs to be a mechanism for us as leaders to communicate the same language with our team members. So, situational leadership gives that uniform channel for language of leadership. It allows for efficient and effective ways of conversations to strive and get going. Last but not the least, it develops competence and increases confidence within your team members. A little bit about this leadership model history. Ken Blanchard and Paul Hersey created this model of situational leadership in the late 1960s, which allows you as a leader, depending upon the situation, to adopt and deal with your appropriate leadership style. Now, why is this particular method popular and important for us as leaders? First thing, it's simple to understand. It works in environments for most of the people. And then it is not just something that you can apply at work, but as well as at home. So let's all deep dive into what this means. So, situational leadership basically is bifurcated into three top steps. The first one is goal setting, align on what to do and by when. The second is diagnosing, assess the individual's competency and commitment. And the third is choosing a leadership style, which is the process of matching. So, say for an example, you're setting a goal. Say as a tester, you might as a leader set a goal for a particular tester, maybe saying that you need to test this particular application by November or by December 2022. Diagnosis is about identifying whether this particular individual is set and has the competence and commitment to do that particular job. And then matching based on the competence and commitment of the individual, what sort of leadership style as a leader you need to apply. So we'll deep dive into each of these basic steps. So let's move ahead. So the first step is goal setting. It's basically aligning what to do and by when. As testers, as leaders, you definitely want to have a North Star goal for your project and your team. So, goal setting is a really important step in order to create an alignment between you as a leader and with your team members and what you expect from them. As the popular mnemonic goes of setting SMART goals, which is specifically S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for timely. So whenever you're setting goals, it's important to understand what do you want to do. How will you know when you have reached your goal? That is basically measurable. Is it in your power to accomplish it? Whether it's achievable? Can you realistically achieve it? Is it realistic? And is it timely? When exactly do you want to accomplish it? So when we talk about smart goals, whenever you are setting goals for your teams or you as an individual are trying to do goal setting for yourself, it's important to keep these points in mind. An example of a smart goal could be something like, as a leader, if you want to set something for your team members, it could be maybe share a proof of concept report for API automation with tool X and tool Y by end of December 2022. So here you're being very specific that you want a proof of concept report. Then you're looking at being realistic with how many tools, so tool X and tool Y. What exactly do you want to achieve, right? You want to find a report whether these tools are fitting your context for API automation. And then timely, you want to get it delivered by the end of December 2022. So you are setting a realistic timeline for a proof of concept. So as leaders, the first important step and the situational leadership step as well says to set smart goals. Now, what's the importance of setting smart goals? Smart goals motivate individuals, and most importantly, they get leaders and people they lead on the same page. So let's move on to the next step once the goals are set up. So the next step in situational leadership is specifically diagnosis. So basically assessing the individual's competence and commitment to that goal. How does a tester or an individual or a team member perform on this goal? Or what are your expectations and what do you see that this individual lives in that particular development zone? So let's see how this diagnosis process comes into picture. So, when you're diagnosing a development level of your team members or fellow testers in your team, it basically is categorized into two important pillars. One is the competence on that particular goal and the commitment on that particular goal. So, what do we know? What do we mean by competence? So, it is specifically a demonstrated previous task or a previous association with that task. For example, a person who is assigned to do API testing, how comfortable has he or she been in the past with that tool? The next part of competence is the transferable and knowledgeable skills. What has that person acquired from his or her past experience? The next pillar is more about commitment. How motivated is that individual to perform the task? And confidence on that specific goal. How confident is that individual in accomplishing that goal? So we'll deep dive into these two components ahead. So when we talk about development levels in situation leadership, they start from a D1 to a D2 to a D3 to a D4, which starts from a low competence to some competence to a moderate competence and ends at high competence and high commitment. So it's more about the quadrant is from a developing kind of a development level to a fully developed level. So when you look at it in layman terms, a development level may start from someone who is new to a particular task to reaching the topmost level, which is being an expert. So let's deep dive into each of these development levels and understand what they mean. So the first step is D1. So identifying team members and individuals who fall in D1. These individuals have low competence and high commitment. As they term it in situational leadership, these are the enthusiastic beginners. When you talk about testing, someone who is just newly entered into the testing world, they are definitely low in competence, but they are definitely high in commitment. They are super excited with their first job. They are super excited with what they are going to start off doing. So these people are definitely very high on commitment, but low on competence. So how do you identify these individuals? Is on basically these categories, which is on their competence. They are new to the goal. Of course, since they are starting off, they are inexperienced. They don't know what to do in terms of commitment. They're definitely eager to learn and enthusiastic and excited to step into the world. And they're confident about transferable skills and they're confident that they're going to learn and absorb whatever they can. So this is specifically the D1 level. So in an example which I talked about and what you're seeing right now on the screen of an enthusiastic beginner, in this is an example of a surfer who is just initially stepping into the zone of surfing. So at first, this person is trying to learn the basics, learn on sand, and then later on move on to surfing on the waves. So even when you look at the testing sense, right, who are enthusiastic beginners? Someone who is a fresher in testing, someone who is new to testing, someone who's super excited to kickstart their automation journey. So these are, the enthusiastic beginners and how you can identify them that they fall in the D1 category. The next is the delusion learner. Now, these people have some competence but low commitment. Individuals who have learned a few aspects about testing, but they are not getting that kind of a motivation, they are demotivated. So their commitment is also very low. They really don't are not able to figure out uh, what are they doing. They may be fed up by doing repetitive tasks, maybe something like writing test cases and just executing those test cases. So these sort of team members fall in a delusion learner category. So when you talk about their competence, they have some knowledge and skills, so they know what they're doing, but they are not reached to that competent level. They don't know how to move forward. They are totally in that world where they don't know how to take and move to the next step. They're inconsistent in performance and progress. At times they perform, at times they don't perform, right? In terms of commitments, if they are doing any sort of a repetitive task, it might lead them to get frustrated and not like what they are doing, right? So if you put some tester into a field and ask them to just keep writing test cases and executing those test cases based on what they're reading, it may not motivate them at some stage. So they are demotivated, they are confused, they are also afraid to make mistakes if they do something wrong. So these are specifically the delusion learners. When you talk about the example which I'm showing right now, right, is it of the surfer again, who now is entering the waters but needs help of a coach to support him, you know, navigate the waves and surf through the waves. So when you correlate it with a testing example, it's more about like, now a tester has learned the art of exploratory testing, and he or she wants to move into learning more about other aspects of testing, automation, security, and performance. But they are shaken. They need some sort of mentorship and a guidance to sort these career paths. They need some sort of a coaching to understand what else they can add into their testing strategy. So this is nothing but what we call a delusion learner, or D2. The next part is D3, which is a capable and a cautious contributor. Now, these sort of team members have moderate to high competence and variable commitment. So, someone who is into the world of testing, who has been there for some time, they know how to apply the test strategies, they know what all techniques need to be used, they know uh, the types of strategies that they need to apply to their testing, be it accessibility, be it performance, be it security. So these people are capable and contributing, but they're not able to take it to the next level. So this is what we call the D3 uh, development zone, where they have moderate to high competence and variable commitment. So when you look at the bifurcation in terms of competence, they have demonstrated their competence, they are experienced, they make productive contributions, and they are skillful as well. And in terms of commitment, at times they are hesitant, they don't know how to add solutions, think out of the box. At times they are not confident enough, and they may be bored at times, right, doing the same thing over and over again. So, in our example, when we look at D3 zone, which is capable but curious contributor, now this particular surfer knows how to surf and is surfing on low waves and is doing it without the help of any coach. So, this is what we call a D3 zone. So, even as testers, one may know to automate, one may know to uh, do various testing strategies, but how they can take it to the next level. So these individuals are stuck at a place where they are blocked with innovation, they are not in a zone where they can bring in innovation to their teams, right? So more about how they can contribute, building newer frameworks, bringing new ideas, right? So these testers are, even though capable, but not reached to an extent where they can become an expert as yet. D4, this is the people or the team members with high competence and high commitments. In the situational leadership term, they are called self reliant achievers, the top performers, the experts, right? They have accomplished, they have the competence, they are consistently showing the value on that particular task which is assigned to them. They are recognized as experts in that field. Now, these people are self reliant, they are absolutely confident and being self assured. And what important, they are inspired, and they inspire others. So, on every task as a leader, also, it is important to cultivate people from a zone of D1 to D4, which is the self reliant achievers. So, get deeper into how this can be done. So, in the example of D4, which is a self reliant achiever, now the surfer is competent enough and can surf, huge waves, right? So even when we talk about testing aspects, a testing expert now into the field, a lot of experience has been provided. Now it's a time for the self-reliant person or the expert to give back to the community, to give back to his team, bring in out-of-box ideas, help achieve problem solving, drive innovation in the team. So these are the people you should look up to and help them cater to as a leader. So we talked about first goal setting and we talked about the second, which is identifying the development level. So what specifically you need to make sure when you're working in and understanding development levels, that development level is goal or task specific. So be sure you do not fall into the trap of considering it at an individual front. Now, what I mean by this, right? So, for example, if you take my example, I may be a D4 in test automation, but I may be a D1 or a D2 when you talk about security testing or accessibility testing, right? So it's important, and each individual has their own strength and weaknesses. So you need to understand what task is that person performing or your team member performing. On based on that, you will have to decide the development level and your strategy of leadership style you need to apply on them, right? So not everyone can be a expert in everything. Some of us may be experts in security testing, some of us may be experts with exploratory testing, some of us may be experts with automation. So depending upon the task which is assigned to that individual, you need to identify what their development zones are. And as a leader as well, you need to make sure that that person transitions from that development level into the D4 category, which is the category of an expert. Okay, so we talked about development level 1 or step 1, which is goal identification. Then we talked about step 2, which is identifying the development levels. Now let's go to the last step, which is matching. And this is important for us as leaders, on which style of leadership that you need to apply depending upon the context with your team members. So, like in the diagnosis phase of development levels, matching also has two different pillars. One is directive and the other is supportive. What do we call a directive leader? A leader who is telling and showing what to do. A leader who is giving constant and frequent feedback to his team members. This is the directive approach. And there is a supportive approach as well to this. A leader who listens and facilitates problem solving. So, as a leader, it's also important for us to listen at times, depending upon the context. The other trait of a supportive behavior is encouraging, involving your team into decision making or your team members into decision making. So let's bifurcate and understand what are the leadership styles that a leader or future leaders can apply and transition into. So we have four different categories of leadership style based on the directive behavior and supportive behavior. So we have the directing leadership style, the coaching leadership style, the supporting leadership style, and the delegating leadership style. So let's look at each of these leadership styles in detail. So the first one is directing. What is the intention of a directing leadership style? The intention of a directing leadership style is more about helping others build competence, which is high directive and low supportive behavior. So, how does one achieve a directive leadership style? So, it's about as a leader acknowledging transferable skills, giving directions to your team members about what to do, how to do, and when to do. And of course, checking in frequently, checking feedbacks frequently, right? It is not that you give a task today and you evaluate it at the end of the year. It's about constant feedback and constant checking. So when we talk about this example that I'm showing here on the directive style, right, as a directing leadership style, you are giving, in this example, a young dancer what posture they need to stand with. You're giving them how their head position should be, how their stance should be when they're learning dancing. So this is more of a direction that you're trying to give uh, these young dancers. When you just talk about testing as well, when someone is entering into the world of testing, you're giving them the ideas of how to cultivate an effective test strategy, how to build heuristics, how to build oracles around testing, what all strategies they need to apply. So these kind of role as a leader is called a directing role. Let's talk about S2, which is the coaching. The intention here is to re-energize and reteach. Now, how can one coach or re-energize? So explore the concerns of the individual, what trouble they are facing with, explain why they are doing this particular task. As testers, we are always very curious to understand why we are doing a particular type of testing. So at that time, as coaches, as a coaching leader, you need to explain why they are doing this task and how this is going to help the team achieve delivering quality products. Redirect, reteach. If someone is not going in the right direction, redirect them, reteach them, make sure that they are going on the right path, and involve in problem solving. As a coach, you may be constantly required to handhold and coach people into doing the right things, because you are using your experience to coach them into not making the mistakes you would have made at your earlier stage in life. So, coaching, and in our example, here we are showing a lady who's coaching the dancers. They're now understanding the postures, and now they're upping their game up with, you know, making the dance moves. So, this is more of the coaching style, right? And when you talk about coaching as well, like I gave examples of us as testers, it's very important for us to make sure your team is not deflected. Your team knows what they are testing, why they are testing, what all strategies they are applying, what all activities we need to apply when you're testing, how one can apply the ideas of accessibility, UX testing, security testing, performance testing, which are also crucial along with exploratory testing, right? So there is a lot of hand holding and coaching that needs to be done in this leadership style. The third one is S3, which is the supporting behavior. A leader needs to build that confidence in competence. A leader needs to listen, and how that can be done is take the input about how the progress of your team is going, understand them. Listening is a very crucial and important factor for us as leaders to understand what your team member is going through. Are they motivated? Listen to them, encourage them. Don't When you look at supporting behavior, it's not always about giving them a solution to a problem. Facilitate problem solving, give them certain tips, and ask open-ended questions where they can for themselves explore what the solutions to a particular problem can be. So this is more of a supporting sort of leadership style, right? And in this example, you can see that now the dancers have built up into experts and competent enough to dance, right? And you are just supporting them, you are just course correcting them whenever they do wrong, right? And it's also about, when you talk about the concept of testing, right? Now if a tester is proficient in a particular area, right, and they're exploring new areas of testing, they want to maybe say explore the automation aspect of it, you're guiding them on what aspects you need to look at when choosing the right test automation tool. So this is specifically the supporting behavior. Last but not the least is S4, which is the delegating behavior. Now, the intention here is to value contribute. As leaders, it's very important for us to not do every task. The art of delegation is also very important, right? And how you can achieve this, you need to acknowledge expertise, you need to support autonomy, you need to have the confidence in your team members that yes, they can achieve it, and you have put them to a stage where they can drive the show independently. Invite innovation and ongoing learning. So in this particular example of delegating, you have trained your dancers. Now they are ready for the great and the big show. So you watch them excel, you delegate, you see them growing, and you see them excelling. That's the mark of a true leader. So it's about inviting innovation, creativity, and out of box ideas, right? So as testers as well, when someone you think has reached to an area where they are now experts, it's important for you to understand that now is a time to delegate, now it's a time to set them free and let them invite innovation. So a quick recap: when we are talking about development levels, we have talked about goal setting, we have talked about development levels, and we have talked about leadership styles. And the way that you match these leadership styles is about setting the development levels to match with the particular leadership style. For example, a fresher may need direction. So someone in a D1 may need a lot of direction, whereas someone in a D2 may need a lot of delegation to happen as an expert, right? So when you talk about situational leadership, depending upon the development level the testers are in, you need to match your leadership style. So D1 is to S1, D2 is to S2, D3 is to S3, and D4 is to S4. So there are various conversations that you can have when you look at leadership styles. So style one, style two, style three. It is more about uh, when you're directing, when you're coaching. That is style two. Style three is about fostering communications. Style four is about delegating communications, and it's important as leaders to focus on doing alignment-led conversations and one-to-one conversations as well with your team, which needs to be driven by your team members to align. So in all of this, it's very important that you don't fall into the mismatch trap, which is over supervision and under supervision. So someone who is at an S1 level or at a beginner level may not need the delegation, and someone who is at an expert level may not need a lot of direction. So make sure that you are beware of the mismatches of over supervision and under supervision. So remember one thing: situational leadership isn't something you do to people, it's something you do with people. You can learn more about this leadership style at this particular website, kenblanchard.com, The Situational Leader by Dr. Paul Hersey, and Management of Organizational Behavior as well by Paul Hersey, Kenneth Blanchard, and Davy Johnson. So I'd like to end this talk with saying the key to a successful leadership today is influence and not authority. So I'd like to thank Synapse QA for this opportunity and hope to see you all being exceptional situational leaderships and taking your teams to success. I'm Jocelyn Andrades, and this is my talk. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Josley. You can take a deep breath first. I see that you have very interesting content around leadership style and the topics around it. Very nice picture as well. It's easy to follow, at least for me. But I think I would like to hear from our judges, Anna and Naveen, on their feedback. Hi, Anna. How do you
Hello.
find about Josley topic? Which part of the presentation attracts you the most?
Um, Thank you very much for this presentation. I enjoyed it. It's very good knowledge, and obviously, it's somebody already put it together. Um, do you want me to give some feedback on the presentation, or you're gonna ask
Yes,
a specific question? I
you
can.
you you can share your feedback.
Okay. Um, with the presentation, I feel that Jocelyn was a little bit led by the book. And as, as much as I want to learn this information from the book, I would really love to see some real life examples, not just the lecture. If you could, there was a probably, I'm sure there was situation when you were in a position of a leader, or you were a position of a person to whom the leadership was applied. And I would love to hear some storytelling about like real life examples. That would be definitely enhancement to this talk. The second one, the presentation slides, some of the text was very, very small. Um, and I had to like go on like this, like, what does it says there on the slide? So, if possible, to make the slides more user friendly, because I'm not reading a book, I'm actually watching. So, if you want to take a look at like some of the slides, otherwise, it was very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'll
Thank you,
take this
Anna.
request.
As Anna was giving feedback, I saw Naveen was nodding. So I would like to ask Naveen, where do you see the balance between the presentation and the content of what Josie just presented to us?
Yeah. Hi, Safinah. Hi, Geosley. So I like the way the perspective of bringing the testing thing into leadership. So basically, the leadership is just a general concept, right? It can apply to any industry, basically education or hospitality, any industry. This leadership skill is need. We must have that. But yeah, you brought that perspective into testing, and you wherever it is required, you gave examples of okay how the situation applies for testers. So that one I like it. And then I was expecting some kind of a downside of the situational leaderships, more into kind of a real world situations. So what is everything has a pros and cons, right? So most of the slides talks about the pros, right? But what is there on the downside? Because every style has its own advantage and disadvantage, right? So we have to balance it both. And for some people it will be situational, for some people it should be a super boss, right? So it depends really on who you work with and what is the current state of the organization, right? So I would like to bring some more perspective on both the sides, the good side and evil side. So that one I was expecting. That is one thing we can improve. And as Anna said, right, I because I read about these kind of books earlier, not recently, in the past, but most of the points were just a slice of the book context. That's what I also felt that probably you would have reduced that and increased your own experience and your own thought process into it. But otherwise, it's a great talk. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Naveen. I love that Naveen managed to, the tiniest point that he is asking for a more example on the downside of it. I mean, I also agree. Now that he pointed out, I was like, oh yeah, that's a very good point as well. Well, thank you, Anna, and thank you, Naveen, for your feedback. And Josley, all the best to you. We will see you in the next round, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Our next contestant is Suman. Hello, Suman.
Hi.
Where are you?
Hi. Yeah,
Hi,
I'm
hi,
here.
hi. How are you? Are you
Yes.
ready for the
Doing
presentation?
good. Yes, yes, I'm ready.
All right. Without further ado, take it away.
Okay, perfect. Hello, judges. Hello, everyone. So, today my topic is about UX research methods and usability testing. So, the agenda will be first, we'll cover about UX research and its importance, then, what are the different methods in UX research. Then one of the UX research method is usability testing. We'll see its importance. When should we go for usability testing? Different kinds of methods in usability testing. What are the different steps you need to take in order for preparing like one end-to-end process flow in the usability testing? We'll go through one of the case study of Shopify, and then finally the conclusion and the key takeaways. So let's begin. First, what is research, UX research, and its importance? So, UX research is nothing but it's user experience research. By the name itself is very clear. Like we are researching about what the users want so that we can build better products and better solutions in order to see how easily and convincingly they can perform their task in order to meet their goals. It can be business needs or personal goals. So that's UX research in a nutshell. So UX research comprises of three components, main components. First, what the user wants. what is the requirements of the user. Next, what the user needs. Sometimes the users may not be able to know about what they want. So as a UX research, as the company, we need to see what are the general needs. And then finally, implement the feedback in order for us to develop the right products and solutions for the user. Under user UX research, we first study the user interaction, how the interaction is happening with the product, with the services. We will design the products in a way which is more user friendly, and then we validate the prototypes and concepts. And it means different things for different companies or different departments. For example, from the product team perspective, UX research means to validate the prototypes and concepts. For the marketing team, it means different. It means to test the brand design and messages. Why is UX research important? So think of these two options. If you are given a choice, whether you want to invest in the product development first, that I will make the product first and then see what the customer wants. Is that a good approach? Or you will research the customers first, understand their needs, and then invest in product development. So any sensible company or organization will prefer option number two, where we do the UX research first and then invest in product development. So that is the importance of UX research in a nutshell. To summarize the UX research importance or the important aspects of it is, because we are doing research upfront, there is no guesswork in design and development. As a result, the company is saving on time and money. Every company wants to be profitable, and doing this proactively, knowing the user needs, they can do more of saving in terms of time and money. And thus, it leads to a much accurate product because there is no guesswork involved. And thus, the final output is the customer is extremely happy and it creates a wow experience for the user. Now, let's look at what are the top UX research methods. So these are some of the most commonly used UX research methods, out of which we'll be discussing the usability testing in the coming sections more in depth. And apart from usability testing, there are certain these top UX research methods, which are user interviews, surveys, card sorting, tree testing, and A by B testing, and so on. So one by one, we'll just touch upon these UX research methods, and then we'll go in depth about the usability testing. So first, the usability testing. Here, I will just cover a high-level usability testing because we have more sections in the future to cover about usability testing. So usability testing is nothing but we are checking or validating the product or the services that we are going to provide with real participants. Where we are interacting with them, we are getting actionable insights so that we can build a better product and a better user experience. Next is the user interviews. This is again a second type of method which is used for UX. So as the name suggests, user interview is nothing but we are doing a one-on-one discussion with the users to see how the particular user is behaving. And here we get much more insights about what are the user's attitude, desire, and experiences with the product interaction. So in the user interviews, we cover mainly during the early phase of the development where we are doing during the goal setting method. So in the product development flow, when you are doing and identifying the goals, it is recommended that you are engaging the user beforehand. So you have a set agenda. You are clearly telling the user that this is the agenda. It is a usually for time duration of 30 minutes to 1 hour conversation. And here, the UX research team member, it is expected that you take the notes of the user interview so that you can go back and refer, and also other team members can refer it. Next is the surveys. So we all go through different kinds of surveys. Every company wants to know our surveys because we are the users' for different companies as well. So surveys are nothing but series of different types of questions where the user has to answer and give their honest feedback. It from that again, it's another way. So all these UX research methods is in a way for us to get different user perspectives so that we can get different business ideas, features, and test scenarios. Some of the user important factors are: what is the name, what are the users going to be, what is my goal. So we have to be goal oriented with the surveys. Where do you get the respondents? What kind of software should I use, and how should I collect and analyze the data? Now, some of the best practices in the survey is keep it very brief. Usually people are not very, if you give them a very huge survey, chances are they will not do that survey. So keep it very short and simple. Give them the estimated time of survey. If I know beforehand what is the time required, and if it's a short duration, chances are more high that people will be more engaged towards the surveys. And then keep it a mix of open-ended and close-ended questions. Some questions will be yes no, some will be deep elaborated, and then take permission if they are okay to answer for more in-depth questions after the survey, so that you can get much more insight. So these are some of the best practices. Next is the card sorting method. So card sorting is, as the name suggests, imagine there are different cards where users are given different cards, and then based on that they are used to group or label certain things. And this is mostly common for the website navigations, where as a user we want to know how comfortably we want to navigate through the website. So if you remember in UX research definition, we want to make users so that it's easy for them to do the things, and in website they should not be looking around or struggling to find what they're looking for. So card sorting gives a good insight about how to search and navigate and how comfortable users are. This is one of the example of card sorting for a website development, where for main menu people are trying to group all the different cards based on how things are given. So all the cards are scattered, and then from the user perspective they are arranging or sorting these cards. So this gives an insight that how people want as a user to logically see under what section. Now, tree testing is, it's all about seeing how people are seeing the hierarchy. So the best part about all these UX research methods, the name given are very related and very simple to imagine. For example, tree has different branches and different hierarchy. The same concept applies in the UX research method as well. So here you are identifying the hierarchy. So users are given all the different kinds of text information, and then we are trying to find out, can they form the hierarchy on their own. So this gives an insight how easily people are trying to navigate through the hierarchy, information hierarchy. This is one of the quotation by a senior UX researcher at FedEx, that tree testing is a highly valuable exercise to get a clear view of what real user expects in the navigation of website. So that's the importance of tree testing. Next is 5-second testing in the UX research method. Here it gives a quick insight about what is the first impression. Like attention span is very small, so 5-second testing is like a quick feedback that we get from the users. Now these are certain statistics. If you see, there are 4.95 billion global internet users, out of which 55% of users spend less than 15 seconds on a website, and the average time span is 8.25 seconds. So 5-second testing is very important to see what is the first thing user is seeing in the website or in the product. Next is A by B testing. So here again, as the name suggests, it is mainly checking which option is better. Out of the two options, you are analyzing which option is better. Now, better can be in terms of quality, conversion rate, which will sell better, etc., etc. But the concept lies which option is better in any of the category. So that's what you do in the A by B testing. And the final method that we'll discuss here is the diary studies, where you are going through a diary. The users are asked to maintain a diary over a certain period of time, where where they can be more free form and structured, and they jot down their thoughts and process, and you can get into the minds of the users. So those are certain methods. Now let's go dive into the usability testing and its importance. So what is a usability testing? As we already saw before, that usability testing is, we are testing the product with real people so that we get the insights. What are the actions we need to do so that we can give the best product and services to the user? The goal of the usability testing is to understand if the design is usable and it is intuitive for the users to accomplish their goals. So that's the whole idea of usability testing. Now let us look at the importance. Why is usability testing important? So this is another quote by the founder of yet another studio, and I quote, "Good usability testing takes a holistic look at the potential audience that you can serve and the range of intended and unintended users of a product." So it is to look the product or a service that you are going to deliver holistically from the user perspective. So that is what summarizes what the founder of yet another studio wants to convey. Again, some of the statistics from the usability testing perspective. According to research, 64% of the features are not used by the users, actual users, which is a big waste of time, energy, and resources, that you have made a product and 64% of it is not being used. So that's why usability testing is important, where we are engaging the users beforehand, trying to see the perspective and building the product based on their needs rather than building something and waiting for the users to engage with it. So it leads to a much better product, more better usage, and then there is a higher customer loyalty. And it saves a tons of time and money, as we have always seen that business is all about time to market and making profit. So it is very important from the perspective of giving a great user friendly product in a much more economical manner. So far in usability testing, we have seen what is usability testing and what is the role of usability testing in improving user experience. Now the question comes, when to use usability testing? So usability testing you can use in 4 different phases. Once when you are doing ideation, once you are building the prototype, before launch and after launch. So during the idea phase, once you have any idea, business idea, run that with your user and then see what are the different validation areas you are coming up, and then share the results with your team. Next, once your ideas are finalized, you get all the important points, then you go on and build your prototype. And here also you engage your participants and get feedback. So get feedback during the idea phase. Once that is hashed out, go for the prototype. Invite the users to try the prototype before you begin the actual development. And then before the launch, once it goes to the production, you want to again engage. So run unmoderated test. By unmoderated, I means which is not monitored or guided. There is no one supervising you to identify any user experience issues. And if issues are there, then you go back and reevaluate the requirements with a small set of users. And then even after launching, don't stop engagement with user. Everything is constantly evolving. So make sure you are engaging the users and seeing what has changed based on the behavior evolution, and then redefine your product. So these are the 4 phases. Next, what are the different types of usability testing methods? So these are the top things that we will discuss under the usability testing methods: quantitative or qualitative, moderated or unmoderated, remote or in person, gorilla testing, and lab usability testing. So let's first begin with quantitative or qualitative. So as the quantitative name and qualitative means, quantity, so means numbers. So quantitative deals with hard numbers. It is more of data driven decisions. So the decisions are made based on hard facts and real data. And the results are numerical data, statistical data, and percentages. On the other hand, qualitative means quality. It's more of non-numerical things like what is the voice of the user, what is the attitude, behavior. So the decisions are more from the user's emotion perspective. And then here the results are user comments and feedback. So out of the qualitative approach, you will get different comments. What is the feedback about the product or services? Next, moderated or unmoderated. Now, moderated, as the name suggests, it needs a moderator, it needs a supervisor. Someone is looking at, like, imagine the examinations we have. It was a moderated approach where there was a supervisor to make sure everything is going good. Here, you have more control over the test flow, and it is very expensive and time consuming. Naturally, more supervision and resources are involved, so it makes it more expensive and time consuming. Whereas unmoderated is more like automated approach, or it doesn't need a supervision. So naturally we have less control over the test flow, but advantages, it's less cost and quick turnaround time. The third topic in the usability testing method is remote or in person. So remote, as the name suggests, where the users and the researchers, over here researcher means UX researchers, different location, and that's why the name remote. But advantage is you have access to large user base. Like imagine Zoom meetings right now. Hundreds and hundreds of people from different locations can come together and they can group together. So there is a lower cost involved in this form of testing. Whereas in person, it's more engaging. People come and meet each other in person, like a conference or a meeting. But there is a different disadvantage in terms of there is a small user base. You cannot have thousands of people. It will involve a lot of cost for that testing approach. Next is the guerrilla usability testing method. So here researchers will go to public places. You get a quick feedback from the people to get the research. So this is more of public approach. It's a short duration approach, and that's why there are few tasks for the user to give feedback on. So be very selective of what are the things you are looking for different users. Lab usability testing. Now, as the name suggests, this is more in of a setup place where you will have it's made in a purpose-built lab. So users will test it in a computer or a mobile device. Imagine a lab setup where there are computers, mobiles, and there the users are using the software or the application. So there is extensive information on the product. That's an advantage. But the disadvantage is it needs a dedicated environment. There is a lot of supervision, and therefore the cost involved is pretty high. Let's look at a flow of how do we do the usability testing. So far we have understood what is user experience research, what are the different importance, different types of methods, what is the importance of usability testing. So what is the flow of usability testing? So this is the roadmap if you want to perform usability testing. So you define the goals of the study, you identify the format and setting of the study, you do the planning and recruitment of users, write tasks, conduct pilot study, execute, write the plan and execute the plan, and finally document the result. So first you are defining what is the goal, what is the thing you want to achieve out of your user experience study. So goal is very important to keep the team aligned. Then you are determining the format and setting, whether it will be in the lab or in the public place, whether it needs supervision or not, whether it will be in the remote approach where I can engage more users, or it will be in person. So these are the format and setting. Next is how many users should I go for? So I have outlined some of the standard practices you need to go. So for the best return on investment for qualitative studies, it is recommended 5 participants per group. And for quantitative studies, it's 20 to 30 participants per group. So that's the best ROI group you need to put. Then you need to recruit the right participants in terms of your demographic and persona, because right feedback is important from the right people. So recruitment is very important. Then you are identifying the task, what kind of task I need to find out. So for exploratory, where you are doing the high level task, there are open-ended questions, and then you are going for more focused and close-ended as per the application. Then you are conducting the pilot study to fine tune the task, that whether all the tasks you have written, is it making sense or do I need to refine it or not? And finally, you are collecting the matrix. What are the matrix I need to identify? So time, ratings, and error rate. Once all those things are done, you will design your test plan document, which will have some of the fields such as what is the product name, what is the site being tested, what are the goals that I have identified, what are the different user profile, metrics, and etc. Once the plan is outlined, we have to make sure we are executing the test plan and then documenting the results. Finally, let's look at a case study of usability testing. So we will look at a Shopify case study. So Shopify is one of the top e-commerce platform where we will study one of the product of Shopify and see how they have used the usability testing approach. So Shopify Experts Marketplace is one of the product of Shopify which connects merchants or freelancers with different Shopify service experts. So it's like a marketplace where you can find out different service experts. So some of the features that they were testing was in the profile page, services provided, client testimonials, and previous work examples, and how easily customer can navigate. So this is the how the Shopify expert profile page looks, where you can see the name of the person, how many ratings, location, what are the different services, images of past products, etc. So this was the product they were working on using the usability testing. So what they wanted to know was from the user perspective. Now here the freelancers are their customers or users. What are the things they want to know about the experts that they are hiring? So they performed generative user interviews where they identified that these are the important things what any merchant is looking for while having a service expert, like the service provided, client testimonials, previous work examples, and then it should be easy to navigate. Once the main points were identified, they went for evaluative research, where they evaluated the product based on the key parameters that the user is looking for, and they collected data to improve the solution. Then they performed the UX research approach of card sorting and tree testing, where we have already seen that card sorting is where different cards are there. User is asked to sort out so that the navigation becomes easy. Similarly, tree testing approach, where they are identifying and evaluating the information architecture. After they got all the information, they developed the research plan and the discussion guide, and then they ran the test with actual users. So the key thing Shopify team learned that what are the different characteristics a freelancer or a merchant is looking for in a service expert for their business. And thus, some of the examples are people want to see the previous work examples and previous customer rating. So with this usability testing and UX research method approach, Shopify dived deep into the mind of the customer, and then they built up the marketplace profile in such a way it became very easy for users to achieve their goals. So let's look at the final conclusion and key takeaways. So we first learned about the UX research, that UX research is user experience research to tap into the minds of customers and how easily they can perform their task and meet their goals using your product and services. We saw the UX research importance, that because of UX research, there is no guesswork, there is time saving, money saving. You are giving a much better product to the user, and thus it creates a wow experience for the user. These are some of the top UX research method we saw, out of which we focused on the usability testing. Apart from that, there was user interviews, surveys, card sorting, tree testing, A by B testing, diary studies. So these are different ways to tap into the mind of the user, engage the users, and so that you are building a better product. We saw the usability testing, and it's important that usability testing is to test the product with real people to make sure that the product is built as per their requirements and there is a less wastage of resources. We saw that we need to do usability testing in all four phases: during the ideation phase, prototype, before the product is launched, and making sure even after the launch we are looking into the user's mind and evolving our product. So these are the four phases we saw. We saw different usability testing methods: quantitative, which is more data driven; qualitative, which is more emotion based decisions; moderated is where supervision is needed; unmoderated, where supervision is not required; remote or in person, where remote is more people in different locations, in person is more small group. And then we saw guerrilla testing for public places. We are getting a quick feedback, and lab usability, where we are testing, getting feedback in a very pre-purpose built lab where users are testing in mobile or in computer. This is in a nutshell different usability testing methods, which is summarized in remote and in person, moderated, unmoderated. So these are the categories, and this is basically showing where are the different type of user experience and usability testing methods. Like we saw lab usability testing. Sorry, over here we saw lab usability, gorilla testing, first click testing, session recordings, etc. Then we saw the roadmap of usability test preparation, like what you need to do in order to achieve the usability testing, where you are defining the goals, you are identifying the format and setting, you are recruiting the right users, you are writing the task, doing pilot study to make sure your tasks are aligned, writing the test plan and executing, and finally documenting and analyzing the result. And then finally, we saw the Shopify case study, where we saw that how Shopify used the usability testing and UX research method to identify how the freelancers can perform their business better through their product, which was Shopify Experts Marketplace. And these are some of the credits and special thanks to the people and companies who have made some awesome resources which helped me in developing this particular presentation. So I've outlined those resources where you can go and see more detail. Special thanks to all these resources. That's it from my side. Thank you everyone for hearing me out.
All right. Thank you so much, Suman. I like that your
Thank you.
presentation covered the breadth of each component of how do you say usability testing and also on the UX research method itself. So I would like to call upon our judges, Anna and Naveen. And maybe this round, I will start with Naveen first to hear your feedback. What do you think about Suman's presentation and whether how much is it aligned to this theme that we have?
Yeah. Thank you, Suman, for the to bring the awareness about the importance of the UX testing. So you touched upon various testing, right? I really like the types you covered in depth, and also with the case study of Shopify. That is good. And I would like to see more about the ROI factor, and is it possible to automate some of these things? I most of the things it's not automatable, I know,
Okay.
but few cases, right? For example,
Okay.
accessibility, we can automate because there are various tools out there, and at scale,
Okay.
how this usability helps organizations. For example, if you talk about Facebook or WhatsApp or any social media websites, right? So they are at scale, right? Plus they have to concentrate on
Right.
the usability. So how we are going to
Right.
close the gaps? So because I'm
Okay.
coming from performance background, so I always think at scale. Okay,
Right.
if any testing is there, will it scale enough for a more number of users?
Okay.
Or I'm not talking about the end users. I'm talking about the developer
Right.
workflows. So how pain it
Okay.
is for the development team, or how pain it is for the UX team
Right.
to accommodate the feedback pretty quickly and roll out to
Okay.
the production within a short period of time. And testers, as a testers, we have to test that
Okay.
within a short period of time. And most of the things
Right.
is not automatable, means everything we have to do it manually. So is there any way to close the gap? Right.
Right.
So I have to. I thought you
Okay.
bring that perspective into the slides, but that is kind of missing. But otherwise, you brought all types of
Okay.
testing with the use cases. The slides are good, so it is readable. Yeah, you the
Okay.
pace also it's very fine. You covered it in very time. Thank you.
Okay.
All the best.
Very
Okay.
good
Sure.
insight.
Thank you, Naveen, for your valuable feedback. Yeah.
I feel that with these two gaps that Naveen pointed out on the ROI and the scalability of the visible part of the automation that helps to tighten up some loose screw that we might have, yeah, for the future presentation.
Right.
Yeah,
No, good
yep,
point.
yeah.
100%.
Okay, passing on to
Yeah.
Anna. I feel that you
Thanks,
have
Naveen.
something else to talk about as well.
Hi, Suman. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very in depth. My first comment is who's the intended audience of this presentation? Um, because a
Okay.
lot of knowledge that I learned from your presentation is the very experienced um, usability designer work. As much as
Okay.
we like to be, touch on usability, um, it's also a professional field, right? And what you mentioned, there was a lot of different methods. There is different data collection and how they been interpreted. And I have seen designers. I've been talking with designers. I was very interested in this aspect of testing, but it's not really a testing in how we perceive testing. They use it for the validation because they need to validate the ideas that they then present to developers or to business people and say, this is how we're going to design because we have some validation techniques that we used. And here is the data, here is the numbers. That's we think that it has to go this way. Testers are not in this position, right? So we do not we are not in a position to tell developers or business people, hey, this is how the design should be, right? So that's why my question was, who is this, all this knowledge that you given us in your presentation, who does it, who is the intended audience of that? Um, I'm not sure that we as testers, so we as testers can do um, a part of testing which is after the fact, after the development is done, right? We can validate whatever's there. But designers use these techniques to design the user experience. So I felt that we a little bit mixed up two things here. That I know that these techniques do exist and I know why they exist. And I know that there is professional users, professional designers who are using them to validate the assumptions of the business people. We're not in this business though. We as testers are
Okay.
not there. It's great for us to know all of that,
Right.
but I don't think that we can take the place of the designer, you know. That's my
No,
that
100%. Every
yeah, that would be my only kind of comment on what are you suggesting here? Are you just giving us an overview of
got it.
like the design techniques, or are you like telling us like to do this because it's we as testers do a little bit different
No,
things.
basically, yeah.
Mhm. So
Right.
some of these
Yeah.
techniques
Basically, here the idea is, yeah.
to do what?
Please go on.
Sharing idea.
No, no,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Please
It's
go on.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It just I've been very interested because when I first started coming to designer conferences and like UX conferences, and I start hearing that they also call it testing. It's just their validation techniques. They also call testing, but it's not testing of the product. It's the testing of business and user assumptions. So they're not testing the product. They just give ideas and they test an idea. So it's a little bit different from what we've been doing, you know. If we are invited
Okay.
to validate some ideas, then yes, all this knowledge that you provided in your um, presentation is great. Like it's better to know more, not just like jump into something and assume that, oh, there's nothing to it. Of course, there is a lot of techniques, there is a lot of experience, there is a lot of knowledge to it, expertise. Definitely, there's experts in
Right.
how to handle some of this. And I have been I've been um, participating in some workshops that designers create, and they're really experts in how to get this information from the users. It's not that you just give it to them. There is techniques to how to arrange all this usability testing. And I think that the depths of that you went in this presentation was great, because it gives more, how to say, respect to other people expertise.
Right.
So just like, don't take it not seriously. Take it. It's definitely another expert
Yeah.
level that would be great for us testers to work with these people to understand better and to help them out. But it's a different profession.
Right.
And that's what I
Right.
wanted to
No,
say, that
yeah.
like, let's have a respect for this profession,
You know,
because
great point,
we
Anna.
learned a lot from them,
Great
but
points, Anna. Yeah. So
yeah, we're not taking their place. It's as much as we are
no,
professionals, and
definitely.
our
Right.
methods are really um, have a value. And some other, you know how, like, sometimes for other professions, they like, oh, those testers, they just click buttons, right? This is what we hear, but it's not true, because we are very experienced
Right.
professionals as well.
Right.
So this is a glimpse. Your presentation to me is a glimpse of some other profession. This is what they have to get through, and it really needs an expertise level to do
Yeah.
all this, to do those things, and to
Correct.
interpret.
Right.
So
Thank you so much.
Right.
And
thank you.
I think
Right.
I honestly
Yeah.
agreed also with Anna's point of view. I feel that, I mean, in conclusion, in short, what I can understand from Anna's feedback is that um, while we are showing our respect in someone else's technique in terms of validating the business ideas, maybe what Anna is looking at as an audience is that how can we as a tester leverage on their knowledge and expertise so that we can be a contributor in helping
Thank you.
them to work on the usability side of the research and
Yes.
also applying
Absolutely.
the methods. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
True.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Naveen, and thank you, Anna. And also,
yeah.
Suman, all the
And
best
yeah,
for you.
just
We'll
one
see.
point I can say. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes. Thank
And
you.
you
Thank
want
you
to add
so
on,
much. And
Suman?
yeah, just one point I want to touch, as Anna rightly mentioned. Yeah, as Anna rightly pointed out, like, uh, of course, we cannot replace designers, but the point of this presentation was to see that, we as testers, we go in depth with our business requirements. We are engaging with users for test plan design. So, why, we can support the designers in different stages, starting from the idea to prototype and everything. So everything goes hand in hand, deliver much better product to the user. So yeah, thank you, Anna and Naveen, for amazing,
Sure.
valuable feedback. I learned a lot.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, everyone. I would like to thank our sponsors, Uilicious, which is a low-code tool for automating tests for your web application across browsers. Our philosophy is test user journeys, not HTML. Write tests that are easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to maintain with Uilicious.
Welcome to Uilicious. Today I will demonstrate how you can automate testing for your web application using Uilicious. The first step is to register a new account, then create a new project. Within our new project, let's create our first test. Writing a test in Uilicious is easy. It's like writing a user story. Anyone can write a test in Uilicious, even if you don't know how to code. Our philosophy at Uilicious is test user journeys, not HTML. Let me show you. First, let's go to the website we want to test. Then, fill the search field with the product we are looking for. Press enter to submit the search. Make sure I see the product we want. Then click on View Details. Click Add to Cart. And finally, let's ensure that I see a success message on the cart page. Let's run our test. Now, let's select our target browser. Uilicious supports all major browsers. Let's select our resolution. There are options for standard desktop, tablet, and mobile resolutions. And run the test. You can see the results of your test on the right. Uilicious will take a screenshot every step of the way to show you what is going on. And that's how simple it is to automate tests with Uilicious. Write tests that are readable and can be easily maintained by anyone in your team. Sharing the test results and comments. You can share the test results with your team and stakeholders as an interactive slideshow or a PDF. You can also annotate the report and write comments to describe issues more clearly. Now that we have created our test, we can schedule it to run automatically instead of manually pressing the Run button all the time. Click on the Schedule button to create a job for this test. Select the browsers and resolutions to run your test with. Set a schedule to run your tests as often as you need. Anytime, any day. Uilicious never sleeps. Uilicious will never complain either, unless a test fails. Email and webhook notifications can be configured to alert you when a test fails. You can monitor the status of your jobs on the Monitoring tab. Selecting a job reveals its history of test runs and associated reports. And there we go. That's how easy it is to write a test in Uilicious and set up a job to continuously test your web application. Testing is a piece of cake with Uilicious.
We are winding up this awesome episode, but we will come back with more. Power Pack episode with more presentations and learning. Our contestant needs your support, so do share your feedback. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't need to be fear of missing out. A huge shout out to our sponsor Uilicious for supporting us to bringing Super Voice to the community. See you soon on our next episode. Till then, it's Safinah signing off.